So how did both of you end up in the management department with such varying educational and work backgrounds?
Jim, you preceded me at Webster University, not in the management department, but at Webster University. Why don't
Yeah, I guess
you
I got here,
with-
what, 1 year before you did?
I came in '76, so I think
Oh,
you were a couple
4,
years.
okay, I got here
You
in
were a
70.
veteran when I
That's
when I
right,
arrived.
I was here, came here in '72. Well, so I came as teaching philosophy.
Oh, I came to teach political science.
Yeah, and so the two of us then ended up in a management department.
Yes, by strange pathways to some, at least strange for a typical academic institution, I think.
Well, you've said two important things. We've never been a typical academic institution, although maybe we're becoming one, more typical. And second, that there wasn't a management department, so it wasn't quite as hard to come in from the outside because everyone did.
Well, that's right, and when you came, there wasn't even a management program. By the time I came in 1976, in January of 1976, Doris Butte-Miller had been here for a year and a half, and she had started the undergraduate management department and was headquartered in the fourth floor of the administration building, now called Webster Hall, and I was in the political science department, which was on the third floor with psychology and sociology, and it wasn't. When I came, I was the first full-time faculty member to have a contract that obligated me to teach part of my load in the graduate programs, because the graduate programs were, and we may want to talk about that in a second, but the graduate programs were distinct from the undergraduate programs, and the academic departments didn't really run the graduate programs. Those were run out of the graduate office. So when I came, I started teaching first public administration, and then some administration of justice, and ultimately health administration in the graduate program.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I migrated towards the management department. And you were administrator for a number of years, and
Though that came somewhat later, but you're right. That was the crucial turn, because when I got here, there was already a graduate program in education that Webster had been well known for in the area, with the Master of Arts in Teaching. I think of all the Carnegie Foundation programs, ours was the only MAT that they funded that was for in-service teachers. Was aimed at working adult teachers. They were already certified to teach. They were in education. They were teaching, and that was underway. But other than that,
didn't they also have a branch of that in Kansas City?
And they had developed, or about when I got here, they developed a branch of that in Kansas City. So we had a model of education, partly at night, although for the MAT heavily in the summer, because they were teachers, that was aimed at working adults, so they were already professionals and coming back to school rather than traditional age students. Then we had the conservatory, the theater conservatory, which was our infamy in the community for the crazy kids that worked all night and ran around the community. And we had an undergraduate college that you were in political science, I was in the philosophy department. And all of a sudden this accretion developed.
And the management program, when I first came, there were a few full-time undergraduate students in management, but most of them were in the evening and going part-time. And so by the mid 70s, we had started the undergraduate degree completion program for students, and I remember both even in the day classes as well as in those evening classes, a lot of women were coming back to finish their degree, and that we were a friendly place, both our format and small classes and things like that, and we were a friendly place for women who had perhaps raised their families, or the kids were in school, and they were coming back to get a degree so that they could join the workforce.
Yeah. I think that was also part of the reputation that Webster had. having been Webster College for the Sisters of Loretto, a private Catholic college for women, there was a sense, probably more comfort on the part of women returning to college. It's always the university. It's always a little scary to go back to school when you haven't been in school because of that history, which is now, almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But that was part of it. I don't know if this is fact or just how a mistaken memory, but my recollection is that we sort of backed into the undergraduate by discovery of a market. We moved initially, I thought, to try to expand graduate programs in business and management related areas, and discovered a pent-up demand for people who had never finished their college degree and now wanted to enter
I think
labor force.
that's right. I mean, the beginnings of the graduate program go back to, like you say, around the time that you came in the early 1970s, and this was before I came, but apparently it started out with a list of courses. It was called the MAI, Master of
Right.
Arts Individualized, and it was a list of courses in management and marketing and business, and the student could come in and kind of build your own degree, very 60-ish, 70-ish approach, and the students could kind of pick and choose classes and build their own degree, and apparently pretty quickly that the administrative difficulty of that became evident, and so then they started to be packaged into an MA in marketing and an MA in management, and that was kind of the beginnings of the graduate program. And then the big leap came when, at that early stage, when the general from Scott Air Force Base knew Bill Duggan, who was at the time the graduate dean and had kind of started the graduate programs, and asked him to bring the program to Scott Air Base. And I guess it was about the same time they took the program to a military base near Chicago, I think. And
Great Lakes Naval
Naval Station.
Yeah, that's right.
And so between those two, we started to take those graduate programs to military bases and use local faculty, and that was really the beginning of the kind of worldwide Webster system. And because Scott Air Force Base was the world headquarters of the Military Airlift Command, that kind of gave us an entree into some other Air Force bases around the country.
That was also, as I recall it, a really crucial moment with respect to getting buy-in from the faculty in the college, which I know from personal experience was not always the easiest thing to do. But Neil George, and perhaps did you teach at Scott on occasion?
Once or twice I taught at Scott.
Our colleagues in the full-time faculty, like you and Neil,
who was chair of the political science department at that time.
Right. Teaching at Scott found the students really stimulating. And so to teach, for Neil to teach a course in an international subject with people who were flying around the world between classes that met once a week, brought a lot to the table, and a different kind of experience of international relations and international difficulties. A lot of the people at Scott had served in Vietnam. There was a whole new stimulus in the classroom that I think really helped cement the support in the institution at large for doing what otherwise seemed a kind of opportunistic